The true crime community is ever growing, with many people discovering the genre through YouTube videos, podcasts, and documentaries each day. Netflix and other streaming services have delivered binge-worthy true crime documentaries recently to keep us entertained. Number 5. When New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez was arrested in connection with the murder of Odin Lloyd, the US waited with each breath and watched the case against the NFL star unfold. Overnight, Hernandez went from hero to zero after live broadcasts of the NFL star being taken away in handcuffs were broadcast around the world. Fans were left in shock. Could their hero really be responsible for the crimes he was accused of? Killer Inside: The Mind of Aaron Hernandez is a Netflix documentary that investigates each aspect of the case and slowly pieces together the evidence against him. The documentary explores the why of the Hernandez case, and it first looks into his childhood and teenage years to see if there were any inklings of the violence to come. During his childhood, Hernandez suffered from abuse of his father and felt he was forced into the culture of sports and showing a tough demeanor to the outside world. The documentary also explores if head injuries obtained from his time playing football had any impact on his violent tendencies. As Hernandez is no longer alive to give his side of the story, the docuseries uses testimony from family and friends to best piece together his life and what could have led him to that moment. Journalist Dan Wetzel said, quote, "I think it was a perfect cocktail of problems, and there were many times when this could have gotten a walk back, or he could have gotten off the rails. He just never had the help or made terrible decisions." Not only does the docuseries explore the murder of Odin Lloyd, but it also brings to light accusations that implicate Hernandez in another crime. It's been alleged that Hernandez was the gunman of a 2012 drive-by. The documentary follows the evidence against Hernandez and his subsequent second trial for the crimes. The docuseries had its fair share of criticism. However, critics claim it was focused on the salacious rumors regarding Hernandez's sexuality. It also received criticism that the documentary made baseless claims and strayed from the topic too often. I guess the only way to find out the full story is to watch Killer Inside for yourself. Number 4. Don't F with Cats was released in December of 2019. However, it gained most of its traction in early 2020. For months, the internet was raving about the documentary that followed two armchair detectives and the Facebook group they created in their endeavor to catch a killer. The 3-part documentary is gripping from start to finish and follows two detectives as they go to extraordinary lengths to track down an anonymous man who'd been posting animal cruelty videos. The documentary recounts all the steps taken by two armchair detectives and shows just how hard they worked to find the man responsible. At one point, the documentary shows a scene where members of the Facebook group were comparing different plug sockets to determine which country he was in. Eventually, the group were able to identify the man as Luca Magnotta, a Canadian citizen who wanted nothing more than attention and infamy on the internet. He was identified, and the group went forward to police to warn them that it wouldn't be long until he started claiming human victims. However, their pleas for help were largely ignored. Magnotta knew that he was being trailed by online sleuths and began purposefully leaving behind little bits of information in a game of cat and mouse that he was confident he was going to win. The series shows how Deanna, John, and members of the Facebook group worked tirelessly to analyze cryptic clues such as posters, locations, and blankets to figure out his identity and exact location. The work done by Deanna, John, and the group is nothing short of incredible. The documentary takes a dark turn when the group discovers a video by Magnotta called "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick." This video is extremely graphic, with many saying how it greatly affected them to watch the scene unfold. This video and videos of animal cruelty were touched upon lightly in the documentary. However, no graphic scenes were shown, and the documentary does a great job at including just enough detail to further the story without going over the top. Don't F with Cats is an incredible true crime documentary, and it's a must-watch for any true crime fan. From start to finish, it displays the hard work and perseverance of Deanna, John, and their Facebook group, even when things became dark. The documentary also explores the killer's life and what led him up to that point, including interviews with his mother and law enforcement officers who finally got him caught. Number 3. Nightmare Nurse: The Magic Syringe is a free documentary made available by Real Stories on YouTube. The documentary follows hospital staff, healthcare officials, and law enforcement on a search to find the cause of a series of mysterious deaths happening within the intensive care unit at Glendale Adventist Medical Center. After setting the scene at Glendale Adventist Medical Center, the documentary takes focus on a string of sudden and unexpected deaths of several of its patients in the ICU ward between 1989 and 1997. Of course, hospital staff are accustomed to dealing with death, and within the ICU, such incidents are common and part of everyday life for the staff. However, staff began noticing a dangerous pattern. A lot of unexpected deaths were happening when respiratory practitioner Efren Saldivar was on duty. After graduating from the College of Medical and Dental Careers in North Hollywood in 1988, Saldivar took a job as a respiratory therapist at the Glendale Adventist Medical Center. He wanted to hold a higher position such as doctor, but given his grades, he settled for a respiratory therapist role as he knew it would give him direct access to vulnerable people. Within 6 months of starting Glendale, Saldivar began his killing spree, even joking with coworkers that he had a magic syringe that would help his patients. Little did his coworkers know that this magic syringe was filled with a chemical that would cause respiratory and cardiac arrest, and that Saldivar was behind the concerning spike in deaths. The documentary follows scientists as they work tirelessly to develop analytical methods and gather as much evidence as possible to prove that Saldivar was the angel of death plaguing the ICU. Saldivar was eventually arrested, and law enforcement found vials of the drug in his work locker. Saldivar admitted that he was the one responsible, but he did it out of mercy. He revealed that he had a very strict code of ethics for picking his victims. He would only target patients who were unconscious, had a do not resuscitate order in place, and looked like they were ready to die. By administering the drugs to the patient, Saldivar believed that he was helping these patients pass on peacefully and avoided a life filled with pain. The documentary highlights how law enforcement was extremely close to catching Saldivar early on, but due to a lack of solid forensic evidence, they had no choice but to let him go. It also follows the team of scientists who devoted a year of their life to developing testing methods that would ultimately prove his guilt. This is the perfect documentary for true crime fans and budding forensic scientists, showing just how much work goes on behind the scenes of any criminal case. Number 2. The issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and First Nations women is an epidemic that is not only plaguing the United States, but also Canada. The Canadian Police Information Centre released statistics that reveal that Indigenous and First Nations women are 11 times more likely to be a victim of homicide and violence compared to non-Indigenous women. Indigenous and First Nations women make up 4% of the Canadian female population. However, they represent 10% of missing women in Canada. Canada's Lost Girls: The Disappearance of Indigenous Women is a free BBC Three documentary hosted by investigative journalist Stacey Dooley. The documentary follows Stacey as she travels through British Columbia and Alberta to uncover the darker side of Canada. The documentary talks about the Highway of Tears in British Columbia, a 725-kilometer stretch of road between Prince George and Prince Rupert, where many Indigenous women and First Nations women have gone missing or have lost their lives under mysterious circumstances. The area has little to no public transport links, forcing women from remote communities to rely on hitchhiking to get to school or work, thus putting them at risk. In the documentary, Stacey also conducts interviews with family and communities affected by these events. She meets up with the family of Amber Takaro, who mysteriously vanished in 2010 after hitchhiking. The documentary provides background information about the MMIWG epidemic in Canada, as well as insights from the RCMP and police force into what they're doing to combat this. Canada's Lost Girls is available to watch on BBC Three iPlayer. Number 1. One of 2021's anticipated Netflix true crime documentaries has finally launched. Netflix's latest venture into the world of true crime is in the form of Night Stalker: The Hunt for a Serial Killer. The documentary follows stories and accounts from police officers, victims, and others involved in the case, and provides an in-depth, behind-the-scenes look at just how they caught Richard Ramirez and what impact his crimes had. Some fans have criticized the documentary for being too graphic and going into explicit detail, showing crime scene photos and using reconstructions to help with the narrative. This documentary is definitely not for those with a weak stomach, and viewer discretion is advised. The Night Stalker documentary follows detectives as they walk through each crime step by step and explain how they obtained the vital evidence to put Richard Ramirez behind bars. It should also be noted that this documentary does not glorify Ramirez in any way, and seeks to finally give his victims a voice after years of Ramirez dominating the headlines. Ramirez was active between 1984 and 1985, breaking and entering into people's homes before attacking them. He operated under the cloak of darkness, leading the media to call him the Night Stalker, leaving the city of Los Angeles paralyzed in terror as to where he would strike next. Ramirez had a difficult childhood and was heavily influenced by his cousin, Miguel, who served in the Vietnam War. His cousin would recount stories to the 12-year-old Ramirez and teach him everything he learned in the army, including stealth killing. The pair frequently drank together, despite Ramirez only being 12 years old. The turning point for Ramirez was when he witnessed his cousin shoot his wife. After this, Ramirez began behaving oddly and soon would start his criminal career, eventually escalating to taking the lives of 13 people. The documentary leaves viewers wanting more and allows people to do their own research afterward. Many fans were desperately left wanting a more in-depth psychological look at Ramirez and wanting to know what made him tick and do what he did. For those who aren't familiar with Ramirez, this Netflix documentary is a great starting point into the world of serial killers. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.